get right into it. One of the things that I told Andy is like, look, everybody's going to get to know who you are. Let's not waste a lot of time on introducing each other. Let's get right to the lessons that matter a lot so people have a lot of action behind it. So Andy, go ahead and take it away, man.
So today is about SaaS webinar system. We're going to, throughout the next 3 days, I'm going to be sharing with you what this webinar system is. That's going to be today. Tomorrow is going to be on the actual how to fill up your webinar. And then the third day is going to be what happens after the webinar on how to increase sales. So I want to share this with everyone. Fill up your webinars with purpose. If you have a notepad, be sure to write it down. I'm a presenter by trade, right? Because I do so many of these webinars. So if you have a notepad, be sure to grab one and take these notes down so that way you can implement it in your business after leaving today's training. So fill up your webinars with purpose, with passion, with people that are hungry for knowledge. So you want to get around people. You want to have people at your events and webinars that are hungry for knowledge. Put a 1 in the chat box if you're hungry for knowledge. And if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're on the Facebook live stream, put a 1 in the chat box. So that way, when I watch the replay, I know who's hungry. Okay. Now, today's topic is going to be about why webinars in the first place. And then I'm going to be sharing with you what the funnel looks like, the first page of the funnel, which is the landing page that gets people to opt in. And then I'm going to be sharing with you some of the automations, okay? A little bit about me is I'm Andy Audate. I help entrepreneurs in my company. I help entrepreneurs turn their business into a money-making machine with sales and marketing systems. And I'm the founder of a company called GoSaaSLaunch.com. Now, before doing the webinars, I was already hosting in-person training. So this is an event that I actually did where I introduced the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Sharon Lechter, to webinars. And I share with her my system. So she implements my system. I've done events with people like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, and a little bit background. Before I started hosting events, my job was to fill up the seminar rooms for people like Les Brown. So I would get dropped off into a city, let's call it Houston. I would spend about 4 to 5 weeks there. And then my job was, before Les Brown, the motivational speaker, comes, I'm filling up the room. I've done large events and small events. But here's what I discovered. I found out there was 2 ways for me to sell SaaS. When I met Paulson, when I met Sean, when I met the team, I said to myself, how is everyone else selling SaaS? And I saw that they were doing these one-on-one demos. So I started doing these one-on-one demos as well. And at the time, I just got married. And I found out, like, hey, the amount of time, the amount of hours that I spent on doing one-on-one demos, I said to myself, man, I pray to God. I said, there has to be a different way. And in the back of my head, I realized I already had the skill set of filling up events. Instead of doing it in person, let's do it online. So let me just click on, okay. I'll allow people to unmute afterwards, Paulson.
Yeah. And we have Ethan, who handles our community team, that's in the Zoom session with us. So he's going to help field a lot of those random discrepancies that you may see.
My man, Ethan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. We appreciate it. Also, Andy, what I'm excited about, before I almost forget, is you're coming to our Level Up Summit in person to teach some of these things as well, right? How many of you are coming to the High Level Conference this year? Give me a 1 in the chat if you already got your tickets, or you're about to get your tickets, you don't know for sure. Just FYI. Okay, so we are doing something called the SaaS panel, where the top 5, 6 SaaS folks are going to be on a panel. I'm going to be interviewing them, and Andy Audate is one of those guys that we're going to learn a lot. And obviously he's going to teach a lot about the webinars as well. So Andy, I'm excited for you to join us in person, and you're going to see our big live event ourselves, and get a lot of feedback from you as well. I forgot to mention that early on as we kind of did the intro. So talk about option A and B, selling to one versus many. I know that's something that you talk a lot about.
Yeah, so the Level Up Summit, I'm going to be doing a little bit more on the SaaS panel and giving some different examples and some successes and how we've helped other people host their webinars. But option A, one-on-one, which many of us have done it at some point, and then option B, one-on-many. And for some, it may be a little bit frightening, but I want you to think about the law of averages, right? Who has, in this scenario, out of option A and option B, in the chat box or on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you're watching this, I want you to write down who, based on just looking at these 2 photos, has the highest probability for the most SaaS sales. So you want to write down option A or option B in the chat box. If you're on YouTube, write it in the chat box write it in the comment section. Just put option B or option A. And then if you're on Facebook, same thing. Right? So I'm seeing a lot of B's here. Sonia, I see you, baby. Landy, I see you. I see a lot of B's. And let me break down the numbers for you. If you're a full-time agency salesperson, maybe when I started selling SaaS, it was just me selling the software. I didn't have a team or a sales team or people selling it when I first started. But let's say I worked full-time. And throughout the month, out of 20 working days, Monday through Friday for 4 weeks, I do 4 demos a day. That is going to be, team, that's going to be 80 demos at most throughout the entire month that I'm working on, which is why we see the onesie, twosie new sales, like, hey, I got 2 customers this week, or I got 1 customer this week. I'm going to share with you a different perspective, a different way of running your business, which is option B, where you're a part-time webinar presenter. In a scenario like this, just on the Zoom call alone, there's over 250 people here on the Zoom call, plus Facebook, plus YouTube, and so on and so forth. But imagine this for your SaaS. You had 100 webinar attendees, 100 of your potential customers, 100 of your potential SaaS customers, business owners who can use a portion of your SaaS, and all you did was work 1 working day to present this. That's essentially 100 demos in that scenario. So the question that I have for you today is, which strategy do you want to sell your SaaS? Option A, where you busting your butt. You got a bunch of automations running. You're trying to get on Zoom call after Zoom call, phone call after phone call, rescheduling with people back and forth, so on and so forth. And you look at the end of the month and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much, I put so much effort in this month. Or option B, you do a Zoom call once a month with a large group of people, and for 90 minutes, you just demo your SaaS. And you get 100 people on to watch your presentation, and you'll be able to do more than the person who's doing 80 demos. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today and over the course of the next 2.5 days is how to really master option B, where you can sell SaaS on webinars.
Andy,
I'm going to give you a
quick question.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Quick question on these webinars. These are live, or are they pre-recorded, evergreen, just living on the internet and people come in and out? Like, what is your thought process on making? I'm sure you'll talk about this, but I'm already curious.
So both. So I've seen I personally, I'm going to be sharing with you Andy's system. I know there's like a bunch of gurus and a bunch of people that have different processes, but here's what Andy's system is. It's all live. And there's a replay available for people who didn't join.
Okay.
So if you get, so that we have a snapshot set up, Paulson will talk about that later on. So you'll see how the replay happens and what that process is. But the first step is we want to get as many people live. This is what happens when it's live. The first thing is people flock together. Yeah. So when someone sees who's your potential SaaS customer and they do a one-on-one demo with you, what happens is you make a call to action at the end and you say, hey, purchase today. And then they'll say, let me think about it. What I've seen is those same type of people join the webinars. And when you do your call to action as a webinar and you say, hey, John just bought, Tim just bought, Bob just bought, the person who was on the fence already, who was let me think about it, they're like, damn, if so-and-so just bought all these, you know what? Man, I should just do it too. So it increases sales and it saves you a lot more time.
That makes sense. And, you know, in our local hero SaaSpreneur course that, I mean, Andy, you've been through it, you've been through the mastermind as well. One of the big things that we teach is like, even if you don't like the internet, you rather sell to many by going to like a chamber of commerce or a town hall meeting where you create like a workshop style event and you're the expert teaching to 10 people or 15 people, even at a smaller level at a local. I think it makes a big difference. And go ahead, let's go to the 4-step framework. I don't want to interrupt.
Let me just add. So I've been doing a lot of webinars since 2020, and I've done over 244 of them. But in November of last year, I ended up hosting like an in-person workshop in the same framework that I did on the webinar. I did an in-person workshop. It was actually quite funny because while I was on stage and I have a group of 40 or 50 people in front of me, I said, hey, everyone, put your hand to the webcam. And I was in person, but it was funny though. But the point is, this framework that I'm going to be sharing with you today, if you take this to your local chamber of commerce, if you take this to your to a small group of people, you can still use the same framework. Instead of doing it on Zoom, just do it in person.
Yeah, by the way, we've already created a demo slide for Chamber of Commerce's if you want to do one of those webinars in the SaaSpreneur course. And if you stay through the workshop, Andy and I have some bonuses for you later tonight or today, tomorrow as well, and day 3 as well. We'll have some bonuses, and that includes that webinar. But let's go ahead and go through the 4-step framework.
So the 4-step framework, you want to write this down, is quite simple. Number 1, you're going to schedule a group event. In this scenario, I'm sharing with you that it's going to be a webinar online. And the reason I chose webinars is I've held a lot of in-person events from 20 people to 500 people. And the cost of a webinar versus an in-person, before you profit, you got to pay for a hotel, you got to pay for, travel, so on and so forth. Even if it's Chamber of Commerce, you still got to pay to get there and so on and so forth. In this scenario, right from home, you can get a group on Zoom, just like we are here. You can get a group online. So you're going to host an event once per month. I know many of you are going to say, hey, but this person says do it weekly, and that person says do it every 2 days, and this person says every 13 days. I'm sharing with you, Andy's system, you're going to do it once a month, per month for the next 12 months. The number 2 thing is that you're going to get as many of your potential SaaS customers to register every single month. As many people, even if you think they're not going to buy, have them register.
Quick question for you on the scheduling of the webinar. Now, do you like these in the middle of the month, the beginning of the month, end of the month? And also, what is the ramp up period that you recommend? Is it 10 days of marketing?
4 weeks.
15, okay, full 4 weeks of cycle.
A 4-week, 3 to 4 week cycle. So you have 21 to 28 days to really push and market. And then on day 2, tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing with you different strategies on how to fill up and why that 3 to 4 weeks is necessary. So that way you have a full audience. If you as are brand new to SaaS, brand new to your business, and your landing page is already set up to sell your SaaS, by the end of tomorrow, early 3rd day, you should at least be able to get 30 people on a webinar following the next 4 weeks. So I'm going to give you an actionable game plan that you should at least on your first webinar, if you follow everything that I share with you over the course of the next 3 days, you should at least at the bare minimum get 30 people on your first webinar. That is 4 weeks from now. So if you want to do a challenge, if you want to make it into a challenge, 4 weeks from now, you're going to schedule your webinar 4 weeks from now. Follow everything that I share with you. I'm going to get literally step-by-step blueprint.
Hey, give me a 1 in the chat who, I would love to know who are the action takers. How many of you want to actually create a webinar for yourself while we're doing this 3-day workshop? And you're like, you know what? Tell me what to do. Give me like a small ramp up period of maybe 20 days. Guide us through it. If you're an action taker, give me a 1 in the chat. Okay, cool.
20 days is more than enough time. I've done so many events. I'm breaking it down for you to a T that you can implement today. So the first step, this is going off a little bit topic, but the first step right now, just schedule a date 4 weeks from now.
Yeah. And do you care if it's like a Sunday webinar, weekend webinar versus weekday webinar? Because I know certain industries, like real estate, for example, that I know, like a lot of them do Saturday, Sunday webinars.
For this group, for everyone here, we can optimize later. Right now, it's about activity. So we can optimize for time and I've tried the mornings, I've tried the afternoons, I've tried midday, I've tried Saturday, Sundays. So I'll be sharing I can answer those questions later on after the 3rd day. However, we can optimize. Right now, if you're brand new to this, just schedule a date. That's the first step, everyone. Just schedule a date. So just choose a random date. And the way that I do it, I look at my calendar and I can close my eyes and I just spin my finger, boom, choose a date. I'm committed. I did this with a client who's on our white label SaaS. She uses webinars, and it took her like 2 months just to schedule the date. And the way that I got her after the 2 months of her being a SaaS customer, I said, hey, just choose a date. And she says, let me get back to you. Let me confirm schedules. I said, just choose a date and put your finger on the calendar. She chose it. She put her finger on the calendar. She got 4 customers on her webinar, and she was not prepared for it at all.
Yeah, this is really cool, Andy. Like, we've got SaaSpreneurs already in the chat saying, you know what, I'm going to do October 3rd as my
boom.
We've got people who schedule it.
October 3rd.
like just stick to it. It's not rocket science, right?
Yeah, and plus you can optimize and get better and get better. It's kind of like running. Like, and this morning I went for my a mile run. I did it in like 11 minutes. When I started, and Paulson, I got a surprise for you for the event coming up, man. I dropped a ton of weight. I'm following you too. I dropped a ton of weight over the last couple of weeks. And when I started, I was like at 20 minutes a mile. So what I'm sharing with you is just get started and do the activity and get better over time. You'll look back and you'll say, man, I remember when I did that 3-day workshop with Andy and Paulson. Look where I was then compared to look where I am now.
Yeah. And if you have a doubt of like, man, who am I going to bring into the actual webinar? I think you should just focus on local. If you're starting off with SaaS, focus on local. Our entire SaaSpreneur program that you're going to get some access to is all around how to capture the local market. But anyways, the second thing is getting as many of your potential SaaS customers to register. Help us understand that.
So tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you the different strategies. However, this is the framework of how the overview works. Okay. So the second thing that we want to accomplish every single month is you just want to pump in as many people. Why? Because it doesn't cost you any more extra time. You're doing one 90-minute presentation. If that's not necessarily going to be your customer, they might have a referral for you. They may have a connection for you. So in 90 minutes, the people that you may have said, you know what, maybe it's not worth an hour demo for me to show you, have them come to your event. It's not going to cost you anything extra. Then number 3 is at the webinar, what you'll do is a live group demonstration of your SaaS. And if you've watched any of the YouTube videos from Paulson, I got coaching from Paulson a couple of years ago, and I was so enthused with all the features of the software, man. You got conversations, you got automations, you got sites, funnels, websites, media library. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And then when I started selling it, especially on group demonstrations, which is webinars, the audience was more confused than they came in. They were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so through this experience over the last 2 years, what I want to share with you is we want to slim it down to 1, 2, at most 2 features of the software.
Yeah.
At most. Okay. So you're going to do a group demonstration of your SaaS, and then you sell it. And then step 4 is repeat. Every single month. Schedule a webinar, get as many people to it. Do a group demonstration, sell and repeat. Schedule a webinar, get as many people, do a group demonstration, repeat. Make it into a song, because that's going to be your process for the next year. Let's focus on your first one now, but you want to do this for the next 12 months. And I challenge you, take this on. Do a group presentation for your whole entire group and see how you evolve over the year, okay? So here's what your landing page is going to look like. So now, many of you who may be like myself, you're marketers. You want to communicate. You want to get people to understand and dump information on your potential customer. Want to write this down. Less is more. Less information, more registrations. That's as simple as I could get it, right? Less information, more registrations. This is my landing page here. Okay, you can follow, and then Paulson's I have a present for you. Paulson's gonna be sharing it with you later.
Yeah. If you stay through the workshop, we're gonna have a big bonus for you, and these landing pages will be included in there. Just FYI, just stick it out,
So, if you are a copywriter, you want to write a ton of copy, this is gonna be challenging for you, because don't. This landing page is so simple. And mind you, there is nothing about my SaaS in here. There's nothing about, I'm going to sell you a software when you get into this webinar. I'm going to do a demonstration of the software when you get to this webinar. There's none of that. I'm sharing the end result. So the first thing that you want to do, if you accepted my challenge, I would love to know, send me a message on the Facebook or the DM or whatever it looks like. But the first thing that you want to make a decision on is the title of your event. Here, my event, I've been running this specific event for 2 years, two years and change, and it's called Building a Multi-Six-Figure Business Through Social Media Marketing. The end result is in the title. So I invite you to look at, when you choose your title, there's a plethora of different names. You can choose one powerful name. I have an in-person conference called Progression Conference, or you can do it a little bit longer, which is communicating the end result. For these free online webinars, by the way, for people who may have a question, like, do I charge people for this? It's going to be free. You'll make your money on the sale of your SaaS. So building a multi-six-figure business through social media marketing is my name. Now, on the title of your landing page, you're going to put the title, the host name, the date and time. That's it. That's the first element of your landing page. The second element is what the audience is going to learn. So when people come to my landing page in this scenario for this webinar, they go to gosaaslaunch.com/webinar, and when they get to that web page to register for my event, they look everywhere for all the details, so that way they can make the decision in their mind of if they want to register or not. Well, the details is when you register. So I make it short enough to inspire people to register, because that's your first step. You'll be surprised how many people said, "Hey, John, I wasn't going to come to your webinar, but then, you didn't have any much information. So I put my information just to see what was going to happen on the other side. But when I came to the webinar, I got so much value. I'm grateful to be a customer of your system that you have." So I'm sharing here the end results. Mind you, I'm not talking about features. I'm not talking about anything else besides what they're going to learn at the training. So 3 to 5 points that they will keep, that they're going to learn. And remind you, keep it short, just enough to stimulate interest. The third element of your landing page is going to be who the host is. What you're going to share here is the accolades that is going to attract your potential customer and that stimulates interest. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. In my agency, since 2017, I've been able to service over 5,500 people from my different products, coaching products, services, high-ticket services, low-ticket services, so on and so forth. So from my audience, that number is attractive. What is something that you've done in your business that is going to be attractive to your potential customer that stimulates interest? All we're doing here is trying to get people interested. We're not trying to have people buy your SaaS on this landing page. We're not trying to educate them on what your SaaS does. We're getting just enough information, giving them just enough information for them to say, you know what? I'm in, baby. Let's find out what's on the other side, because that's all we want is interest. Okay?
Andy, I want to add a couple of things here. For those of you that are starting out brand new, give me one in the chat if you are just starting your SaaS and you don't have any customers yet. Give me a one in the chat. And you feel like, man, you know what? Andy, you sound great with all your accolades. I don't have that kind of an experience just yet. I need some ideas. Like if you're one of those, give me one. Great. So the good thing about SaaS, and we teach this in our SaaSpreneur course, the local course, you don't have to niche down for SaaS, okay? Especially in the beginning. You don't need to niche down. Eventually, you will want to create a track that you really want to focus in so your assembly line is a little bit more ironed out. But in the beginning, all you have to do is say, Paulson Thomas, creator of Blue Line plumbing system, right? It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You just need to kind of just share local digital marketing expert, serviced over 200 entrepreneurs, like whatever it is, right? Or something new. If you're just in the business of marketing in general, leverage all of that, even if it's not SaaS oriented. Or some people that are just brand new with no experience at all, tell them, you have a XYZ degree, or you're a local legend in the area. Hey, grew up in Houston, and that's all you have to say. Then say that. That's better than just having a name and they don't know who you are. Okay, so we share some of these strategies in the SaaSpreneur course, but don't be intimidated by accolades that are way ahead of you. I mean, Andy, look, these numbers are created over 10 years worth of entrepreneurship, even if the last 2 years is when you actually harvested. Okay, so don't get intimidated by somebody's success today because you don't see the other 8-9 years of progress that somebody made to just blow up in one big 6-month run. But go ahead, Andy, continue on the fourth item.
No, and that's 100% powerful. I remember, for example, a few years ago when I would watch these YouTube videos, I've watched your Paulson, I've watched your workshops, right? And I would watch this content and I would say, man, that's good for that person. That's good for that person. And it hit me, well, I stayed in the game. all these years, I've stayed in the game every single month, every single day. I stayed in the game. And that's what I think makes the difference between someone who wins and someone who doesn't, is you stay in the game. So my first webinar, by the way, my highest webinar revenue-wise was 75 grand on the webinar. And then my lowest webinar, 0. My first webinar, I did 0 sales. I didn't make any income on the first webinar. Then that's when I realized, okay, I got to have a PowerPoint. I got to have something to keep me on track, because my first webinar wasn't a sales conversation. It was more of like, hey, how are you? And then I literally had a whole group conversation with everyone, and I completely forgot what I was there to do. So what I share with you is, remember that you can grow over time, and it's like walking. You're going to do your first one, you might trip a little bit. You're going to do your second one. Okay, you got a little bit of gravity there. You got a little bit of a momentum. By your third, fourth, fifth one, this is going to be a process, and you're going to start selling SaaS like you like no other. And people are going to come into your system day in, week in, and week out. Okay. Now, because I'm talking about, and mind you, I talk about big goals. I talk about big targets. And my mentor, one of my mentors is Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker. And one of the things that he said on stage one time, he said, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. And what I share with you is, have these big, outrageous targets. Like, I'm declaring it here. I had a meeting with Sean. We did a podcast interview, which I have, and I can give it to you. But essentially, I said, Sean, how would you build a $10 million SaaS if you were a Go High Level agency owner? He gave me a blueprint. And from that day on, I declared to my team, my whole staff knows, we're building a $10 million SaaS. And the way that we're doing it is through this entire process here. We're just doing it week in and month in and month out, month in and month out. So over the course of the next 36 months, you're going to see so many of my webinars, because we're building a $10 million SaaS by having a few thousand customers on our SaaS, okay? But when you think about big numbers, your big today might just be 30 people.
Correct. Yeah.
Your big today might be 10 people. That's big for you. Experience that. Feel that big. If it's 30 people, like, oh shoot, Andy told me to get 30, or Andy told me to get 10. Oh, I can't imagine 10 people on a Zoom call listening to me speak. I can't imagine that. I feel you. If that's your big, embrace that big, and keep it moving. Progress daily, baby. All right, progress daily. So how do we, if you're thinking big, whatever big is to you, in the chat box, I want you to write down your big number. And let's be transparent. My first big number was 10. I was freaked out at 10, okay? Even though I was doing in-person events, by doing it on Zoom, to have 10 people just looking at me on Zoom, I was freaked out, right? Yeah. So in the chat box, put your big number, if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, in the comment section. Let's blow this video up and make this the biggest one on the YouTube. Put in the chat box how many people is big to you. It might be 10 today. It might be 25, it might be 30, it might be 40, it might be 50, it might be 60, it might be 100. Whatever your number is, put it big.
Yeah, and when it comes to your stepping stone, it's okay. Nobody's judging you if you are only putting 25 or 10. Like, it's, there is progression in this, right? Because eventually that number is going to be annoying to you, where you've already done that number. You're like, you know what? Later on, I need to get to 1,000, right? And that's just the way your standards raise up as an entrepreneur. Like, you want to now spend quality time for yourself without wasting hours and hours building up something, right? And your numbers will just eventually grow. Like, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, you're going to be in second grade instead of kindergarten, or you're going to be in high school instead of middle school, and you'll progress. So don't the numbers you have today, you're going to probably 10x it in the next quarter.
I love the keyword that you're using, progress, Paulson. My white label software is called Progretta. And one day I asked God, I said, what do you want me to name this software? We're going to make this into a big thing. What do you want me to name the software? He said, Progretta. I said, why? Because Progretta stands for Progress Daily. The DA, we dropped the ILY, and then the PROGRE is a shorter of progress. So Progress Daily. Now, in your big number, whatever your big number is, 10, 15, 20, 100, whatever your big number is, we're going to need automations, baby. Okay, we're going to need some automations. So I'm going to be breaking down. This is my stats. I did a webinar last week on September 6th. And when I was working on this PowerPoint last week, I literally finished my webinar and I started working on this PowerPoint. And so this was my stats. I had 821 registrants coming into the webinar, register for the webinar. 133 attended the webinar. And for some of you who are looking at this as new, hey, why isn't 100% of the people who register showing up? There are people who are going to register and forget about it. There are people who are going to register, have life changes, life happen. There are people who are going to register and they simply register for the replay. And there are people who are going to register just to funnel hack you. They're going to say, hey, I want to see this person's system. Whichever, or what I invite you to focus on is the 133 people that attended. So if you do the challenge over the next month and you host your webinar and you get 25 people to register and 6 people show up, that's amazing. That is phenomenal. If you got 6 people to register and 2 people show up, that's phenomenal. That's amazing. Focus on the people who register, who attend. And then at the end of my webinar last week, we closed $81,000 in annual recurring revenue. Now, I know many of you are going to look at this and say, what the heck? This is ridiculous. What I'm inviting you to look at is this. Think about your big. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, over 3 years. And number 2, before that, I was already hosting in-person events, selling on the stage. So what I invite you to do is focus on your big number. I share this with you just so you can see what is potentially possible for you as you create your webinars, sell your SaaS over time. There's one day that you're going to look back at this event and say, I do remember that, similar to how I remember talking to Paulson 3 years ago about me actually becoming a SaaSpreneur. Okay. Now, the campaign that happens after the registration is vital. You want to write this down. To remind the audience to show up to the event. This is super vital. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen in others' campaigns is that they send a confirmation email and say, hey, the webinar is on this date, this time, and they hope people are just going to come. Not remembering that some of the people, the registrants, have kids. Some of the registrants have a life or a job, and things get in the way and they forget. How many of you got a reminder for today's training, right? You got an email reminder reminding you like, hey, the event starts in 1 hour. Here's the Zoom link. So it keeps people on their toes, anticipating your training coming up. So in the reminder, you want to take a picture of this or a screenshot or write, notate it down. However, once people register, the first thing you're going to do is send them a confirmation email. And you can also do a text message anticipating that you're A2P compliant. You can send them a confirmation text and an email just saying, hey, you're registered. And then in the system, and that's what's amazing about our software, is that with this system, you can date the reminders 5 days before, 4 days before, 3 days before, 2 days before, a day before, and on the day of, reminding people to join your webinar when you're live. Don't forget this critical part. If you are doing this challenge over the course of the next 30 days, let me know how you're doing on your challenge. If you have any questions, I'm active in the community. But what's very critical is that you remind your attendees to register for to not only register for your event, but you remind them to show up for the event. And then, so that's step 1 is the registration. Simple landing page, simple thank you page, simple email with the Zoom link, letting them know where to join and how to meet you. If you're doing it in person, you could do the same thing. Instead of sending a Zoom link, you just send the address.
And Andy, just real quick, these are SMS reminders and emails, or you mix them both up between each other? Like, how do you handle, I know you have the icons here, it's pretty obvious to read, but help us understand the philosophy behind email reminders versus SMS.
There's a group of, we want to communicate to as many of your attendees as possible. I'm sure that many of you have, I forget the education, there's kinesthetic learners and like people who feel and people who need to see it. And then there are people who need to experience it. So I think about the same thing with marketing. There are people who you send them an email, they remember. There are people who give you their email, but they gave you like their junk email, or they mistake. Like I've seen people, instead of gmail.com with a com, they accidentally put gmail.con, right? And I want to be able to send messages to people in both ways. So the first one is going to be the email, but in the unlikely event that they don't get the email or they're not paying attention to the email, I also send them a couple of texts. So I hit people and I send people messages in both ways, via email and text. And what's really interesting is over the years, last year, we've had over 6,000 people register for my webinars. And what I found was there were people who would say to me, Andy, I completely forgot about this. I'm so sorry, but thank you for that text message, because I clicked the link on the text message and I went right into the Zoom room. So hitting them from both angles, and with the software, this amazing, robust technology. Because back in the day, I used to host. I did webinars before Go High Level, and I had to plug in this tech software. And I remember I had to do Zaps to upload the contacts to that software. And I had this other software with emails. And then I had this other software for the replay landing page. And I had to put them all together. Back in the day, by the way, it used to take, when I built it out, every single month, it would take me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to be able to launch my webinar campaign after the webinar is complete. So with that special gift that you're getting from Paulson today, I'm making it so much easier for you, because my come to Jesus moment was one night. I just got married, or I got married a year ago. However, there was one night where she was my fiance, and I was laying down in bed about to go to sleep. True story. And I had to get up, and I said, she's like, where are you going? And I said, I forgot the webinar registration. I got to go work on the webinar registration and update it for the next webinar. And I left. And it was in that moment where I realized, like, I got to find out a new solution. I left my room that night to go work on this webinar registration that took me 2 hours to complete, to set up this Zap and that Zap and test it all out with all the technology. And then one software's API would break, and then I had to update it with a new API. It was frustrating, but it worked financially. But the technology, I'm like, there has to be a way. And then fortunately, we found High Level, which makes it so much easier for us and our clients, and especially for you. So if you're at this stage, you're going to be saving so many hours of heartache and pain work trying to put it all together. Paulson will give it to you in a special gift. Okay.
Absolutely. And I think this is the beauty of entrepreneurship. In the beginning, you're going to make all the mistakes, but like, fail fast, fail cheap, fail forward, and that's really what all that matters. Because like, even at High Level, like, believe it or not, it's really difficult to pull a workshop together like this, right? We have to worry about registrations, marketing behind it, the guests that we're bringing in. There's a lot of different pieces, and like almost 20, 30 people behind it. And for me to think about one person pulling it off, it's a lot of work. But once you have your initial stepping stone of processes kind of built out, then it's onwards. Like, you don't have to rebuild processes over and over again, which is the beauty of High Level. So let's go through the next item here, Andy.
Number 2 is, of course, the replay automations. And then number 3 is your live event. On your live event is when you get people to register. So to recap, the first thing on your campaign or your automation is going to be your opt-in page. That opt-in page, you want to keep it quite simple. Less information, more registrations. You want to write that down.
I like that.
Less information, more registrations. Less information, more registrations. Yes.
And here's a big tip, y'all. Look at the mobile optimization of these pages and look at the SEO metadata. Like, a lot of times people forget the mobile side, because you're thinking all the time people register on just desktops alone. That's not true. A very high number register on events on the phone, just FYI. And we're talking about organic, by the way. We didn't talk about paid ads. We didn't talk about anything else. We're talking about creating that organic momentum initially, just FYI.
Yeah, if you follow our process that I'm going to be sharing with you, I think on this PowerPoint slide, it's going to be tomorrow and a portion of the third day. You're not going to be paying any paid ads, but you'll get at minimum 30 people in your Zoom room for you to sell your SaaS to. And imagine that, like that, what do you call it? The avalanche of that. You start off with 30, then you go to 35, then you go to 40, and so forth. So I share with you, if you follow the systems that I'm going to be sharing with you, if I were starting all over and I follow this blueprint, at minimum, I would get 30 people. If I didn't even know how to host an event. Okay. Now, so the first page, quite simple, less information, more registrations. Thank you page, even simpler. Thank you for registering. See you at the event. The confirmation email that you send out, you want to make that simple as well. You can use High Levels. If you register for this event, you can use what they built out for this specific event. It's quite simple, right? Here's the event with Paulson and Andy. Here's the time. So you're at the event. You keep it simple. Same thing with the text message. So now, as soon as someone registers, they get a confirmation email, a text message, and they saw the thank you page. Now, what happens after they register? 5 days before the event, they're going to get an email. I invite you to make this email educational, inspiring, motivational. That's what's going to inspire people to show up, because they associate a good feeling with your event. 4 days before your event, you're going to do a similar email, motivational, inspiring. Okay. 3 days before your event, you're going to send an email out that is a little bit more on the technical side. So for example, hey, when you join us at the event, I'm going to be sharing with you how to generate leads on demand and the technology behind it. You're not going to tell them the technology. You're just going to share. I'm going to be sharing the technology behind generating leads on demand. I'll see you at the event. Looking forward to seeing you in 72 hours. Bye for now. 2 days before the event, hey, so you send that email. Hey, I totally forgot. I want to share something with you that's super cool that I think is many small businesses are missing out on. They're not sending text messages to their customers. On the training that's happening in 2 days, I'm going to be sharing with you how to get phone numbers from your potential customers and text them automatically without you having to do all that legwork. See you at the event in 48 hours. Bye for now. So what is happening to your lead? I'm only on 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm only on 4 emails out of this whole entire sequence. But what's going to happen to your audience is they're going to say, man, this is interesting. I can't wait to see this. Like if this person's talking all this game, I can't wait to see what happens. 24 hours before the event. Hey, everyone, this can be part of their automation. This is part of my automation. Hey, everyone, my team, or it'll say hi, contact first name. So hi, contact first name. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at tomorrow's event. I'm preparing my PowerPoint slides. I got a whole system set up for you on how to generate leads on demand, how to automatically text and follow up. And I got a special surprise that has helped other people generate multiple 6 figures. I'll see you at tomorrow's event. I leave them with a hook, 24 hours. I also send them a text message with a snippet of what I just shared. Okay. I also send them a text message with this is a snippet of what the email said. Okay. 3 hours before the event. Hey, Zoom room is going to be open in 3 hours. See you soon. Bye for now. I also send them a text message. 30 minutes before the event. Hey, Zoom room is open. Now, I opened my Zoom room a little bit before. So 30 minutes before the event, hey, Zoom room is open. Feel free to join. Then 10 minutes before, we send an email and a text that says, hey, we're live. Join us right now. Okay. And on my Zoom rooms for my webinar, I have a countdown timer that tells them exactly when the event's going to start. So that keeps them engaged. When I didn't have a countdown timer, what ended up happening is that people were saying, I don't know when this is going to start. I'll come back. And they never came back. So I have a countdown timer that's playing a little bit of soft music. And that will say, hey, 30 minutes, 29, 28, so on and so forth. And I just got that countdown timer from YouTube. I just grabbed one of the YouTube countdown timers. Okay. And then it's event time. And then at the event is when I sell my SaaS. So I'm going to be giving you the framework and how to fill up the webinar tomorrow. And we can answer any questions today. But tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing with you how to get webinar registrations. I'm going to be sharing with you how to fill up your webinar and how to have other people do it for you. So that way you just focus on your SaaS and your customers while other people are extremely excited to promote your webinar. I'll be sharing with you the framework for that tomorrow.
So Andy, are you going to cover the organic versus paid ads as well, maybe tomorrow, or maybe the third day? Can we just like review that a little bit? Because I know paid ads is one of the aspects of it as well. When if it's for like someone advanced, I would say. Is that part of something you would cover or no?
Not the paid ads. I shared this for people who are just beginning. However, majority, I'm going to share this with everyone here. Majority of my 6,000 did not come from paid ads. Okay. It came from strategic advantages that I put in the marketplace to get people in front of me. So I'm going to be sharing a lot more of that, where you're not going to have to spend a dime, right? If you follow the system, you'll be able to get 20, 30, 40 people in front of you in the next 30 days without you having to spend a dime on ads. I remember I'm very active in the high level community Facebook group, which if you're not, join it, be a part of that. It's a family out here. But someone was asking about like, hey, how much per show up and this rate and that rate. And me and Ping June will go back and forth about this. I'm going to share with you, there is a process that you don't have to, that I implemented when I did in-person events that helped fill up my in-person events that you can implement for your webinars. And I'll be bringing that down tomorrow. You don't have to do paid ads. That's one aspect, but you don't have to.
So let's do this. I know, Andy, I had told you, let's do an hour session each single day, but if we could spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of Q&A for at least content that we talked about today, I would definitely appreciate it. So if you have a question, you do the raised hand button on the bottom of the Zoom session, and we're gonna take about 5 questions, the first 5. So Mark, Dodie, let's see, Marcia, Benj, Emmanuel, and one more person, Ryan. Okay, so those 5 questions we'll take as part of the Q&A today. And what I want you to know, everybody that's in here, okay? Andy and I are not the only experts of SaaS, right? There is a huge community of SaaS people in the high-level world. So like, come to the event if you get a chance to our conference, join the Facebook group, go to Andy's events, go to other people's events, and start connecting with fellow SaaSpreneurs where you'll see different things. I have several programs, right? Like we have the SaaSpreneur Local Hero thing. I do a 5-day challenge that I just recently started, and thousands of high-levelers that are wanting to do a launch is joining the 5-day challenge. But either way, you can never make the excuse that there's not enough resources. That is something I will tell you from high level for you, right? So all the thoughts you may have that's going to limit you from taking that step forward, I promise you, we were all in the same boat. When we decided to do certain initiatives in the company, we're like, man, I don't know if that's going to work. Let's try it out. When we build features, man, I don't know if that's going to work. Let's go break it. Okay, cool. Like that's the mentality we have to skateboard certain things. So the first 5 questions we're going to do, and if you can keep your question to 1 or maybe 2 or 3 minutes, we definitely appreciate it. So we can go through as many. So Mark Ray, where are you checking in from, Mark? I appreciate you joining us. Thank you for having your camera on, man. Mark, where are you checking in from? Let's have you unmute for 1 second.
There we go. You hear me?
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andy, for doing this. This is huge. So much good stuff in here. Checking in from Denver, Colorado.
Nice.
Question for you. If you're just starting out, because I'm guessing a lot of us are, have heard that having a results/testimonials, either page or slide or whatever in your webinar is huge selling point for new people to like, oh, well, this guy's doing it. I can do it too. But if you're just starting out, you probably don't have many of those. So what do you suggest if you're just starting out to like, if people are like, hey, we're the other people that are doing this, like I want to hear their stories, how it's working for them. What do you say to that?
Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
So my mentor shared with me the value of borrowed credibility, right? So if you can borrow credibility of who's using your system, of who's using a similar process to what you're doing. So for example, if I'm going to share about webinars and I'm presenting webinars, many of you may know this guy, Russell Brunson, right? And I may say, for example, like, hey, this guy does webinars to sell his product, or this lady does webinars to sell her product. Now, they're not clients of mine, and I'll be transparent on that. They're not clients of mine, but they follow a similar process, right? So I would share what other people are doing, utilizing a similar tool of what you're selling or a similar product of what you're promoting.
Yeah, and I'll add to this. So I had my own dental marketing agency from 2013 all the way to 2019 before I joined High Level. And similar to what you're saying, like in the beginning, I was in a very saturated market and no credibility, right? So my process in how I kind of launched was so do you all remember like BeLive? Like you remember BeLive? It was like it's like a software that you can sign up for, and you can go live in a profile, like a Facebook profile, a public Instagram or whatever. So I would reach out to, now feel free to take the strategy and utilize it. I would reach out to the top dentists in the market that everybody was going crazy about, the influencers of that industry, right? And what I would do is be the host, and I would ask them, hey, can you do a podcast with me? And all I want you to do is talk about your clinical problems, how you're a college professor, and all these rookie dentists are screwing up all these things. Like, they're literally talking about clinical stuff. We're not talking about marketing. We're not talking about sales, like nothing. We're simply talking about the things they hate in the industry. So I started doing, and they're not even my clients. I'm literally just asking them, hey, can you just jump on a podcast? So if you looked at my Facebook profile, over a month and a half, 2 months later, I had 50, 60 interviews with the top dentists. And they're like, what the heck is this guy doing with the big players, right? So I position myself along with who they are. And the crazy thing, Mark, is I started marketing. I had marketing people cold mailing me. They started cold DMing me because they thought I was a dentist. They're like, oh, this guy's got to be a dentist. He's talking about veneers and clinical infections that veneers create. They hated Right Direct Smile because they were all about Invisalign, right? So I just started aligning the credibility with someone else's credibility. So then when I jumped on a quick sales call, because at the time I wasn't intentionally doing webinars to sell, I was doing that to build social proof. The sales became very easy. But looking back now, if I had set up a monthly event and brought some of those people in, it'll be crazy. I mean, look at this. I've got Andy Audate teaching webinar stuff, and I've got, I don't know, almost 2,000 people registered this and 300 people live. How much am I teaching about webinars? Not that much. I know he's the expert, and I'm just adding on to what he's saying because I know this works. I mean, obviously I did my homework to make sure what Andy said, teaches is very valid, and I've seen the results in his account. So do the hosting. You don't have to be the expert that teaches in the beginning if you're not comfortable, right? Just wanted to add that on as well.
I want to share too. Your name is Mark. Mark, I want to share something that just came up to my mind, because that concern is very valid, first and foremost. But when you're a webinar host, when you're a presenter, you're educating on a philosophy. So the philosophy that I wanted to share with people years ago is, hey, where is this guy going? So I remember one of my webinar slides where I showed Amazon stock, right? And I showed the beginning from 1990 or 80s, whatever it was, that when it started to now. And you saw this spike. And I said, hey, everyone here, when would be the best time to invest in Amazon? Point A, and I showed the beginning, or point B, where I showed the end. Everyone's like, point A, the beginning. I said, this is Andy Audate in the beginning. Welcome. Hey, everyone, you're seeing Andy Audate in the beginning. Now, this is where I'm at today, and this is where I'm going. So when would you like to invest? Everyone's like, point A, the beginning. So now I would also say the same thing for my SaaS, right? This is the beginning of my SaaS. When would you like to invest? When the cost of our SaaS is X high and the same system, it just costs more because we got a bigger team, or do you want to get in the beginning? And many of the customers were like, I'm investing in this company in the beginning. I'm going to be one of the finding customers, or the founding customers. So in your SaaS, you can put, like, for example, call the first 100 customers, your SaaS customers, call them the founders of your SaaS, and let them know, like, hey, you're going to be a founder of our SaaS, and you're paying X hundreds of dollars per month as a founder of our SaaS. So when price increases, we're going to keep your price point the same, and you'll still get the same value there. I don't even have to bring in a bunch of testimonials. I'll just share it. Hey, this is where we're going. Do you want to be a part of it, or do you want not? I hope that was valuable, Mark.
Dude, that's huge. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
Thanks for the question, Mark. So I know everybody's asking and wondering, hey, where's Paulson's bonus that he talked about? We're gonna share it as soon as these Q&As are over. The Q&As matter more to me than the offer. Just FYI. So, Dodie, how's it going? Good seeing you again. Dodie just recently did our 5-day challenge and started getting clients. So if you're new to High Level, we have something called the 5-day challenge where we will help you launch. Dodie, welcome.
Hey, I got a Zoom call at 1, so I'm like rushing. So I might not be able to hear everything, but first of all, Andy, Tony Robbins and Les Brown are both of my team coaches too for several years. So kudos to you. I know you're a smart, positive man. And always, Paulson, you know how I feel about you.
Yeah.
I would like to understand a little bit more on the SaaS in the sense of, and I'll just give you a slight example. I have a marketing company. So yes, I can put sub-agents in. Are we talking marketing companies? And just to say, because I always like to encourage people, Paulson, I had a phone call because I'm 30 years a principal broker and I'm not active right now, but part of my clientele is real estate. I get a phone call today of somebody I spoke to last year trying to sell me something. And I said, dang, man. I said, I'd love to look at that, but I'll be honest, I think I have something that you need more than I need you. And they're waiting for me to send them a demo and we're going to be talking. So I'm just saying, never, like he said, reach for the stars. So
awesome.
my main question was the SaaS.
Just to summarize the question, Dodie.
Yes.
Your question is, can you repeat that for me one more time?
Yeah, is the SaaS, because you have marketing companies and then you have, your sub-agents, you know what I'm trying to say? So when we're talking about the webinar, are you saying that you're marketing to marketing companies?
Oh, good question. Yeah. We had this question come up in the chat, Andy. Her question is this. Is this for affiliate marketing for yourself selling high level, or is this for your own SaaS?
So I only sell my SaaS. So that's just for my SaaS. And even me as a marketing agency, I mean, my marketing agency, Audate Media, is still technically on this little portion of the screen, but we don't even do any services anymore. We completely let go of services. It's all SaaS. So I hope
Okay, so can I just clarify, if you don't mind, Andy?
Sure.
Okay, so you're saying that you were a media marketing company, and then what you did is you started whatever the people that were in your group or whatever, you just started selling them the CRM platform and the support.
In my webinars, that's all I sell is just a
So just for context, so we're going to talk a little bit about it tomorrow and day after on the content of what you're actually teaching in the webinars. What Andy ultimately did was created the workshops, and the workshop itself was them learning high level, right? They were coming in and learning power of automations and marketing. So it became, high level became the slate that he was writing on. It became the pad that he was writing on. So he was just basically like teaching inside high level the power of workflows and automations and all these different things. And towards the end of his sessions, it's like, well, if you want to build this out yourself, here's a trial, right? That was really how.
Yes.
Just wanted to provide context of what the actual event really is. Andy, do you want to add to that? Because I think.
Yeah. So in Andy's webinar, I teach people the 3 things: how to capture, nurture, and book. So if you want to build a multiple 6-figure business, because that's the name of my event, is building a multiple 6-figure business, you're going to need to do 3 things. So I start my premise for my training is you need to capture, nurture, and book leads on autopilot. Well, where are you going to capture leads? Are you going to capture them on a sticky note, which how I started, many of us started, sticky notes, notepads, phone notes, and so on and so forth, or your contacts, which many of the people who go to my webinars can relate to. They're like, yes, that's me. Andy, they'll pull up, Andy, I got my sticky notes right here, my leads, contacts, right? Or I'll joke around and say, hey, Siri, remind me to call John tomorrow because he's interested in my product. And how many of you have ever done that before? Put your hand to the webcam. If you've ever said Siri, or you've had to have a reminder remind you.
Sorry, I have to go. I'm 4 minutes late and they're going to.
Thank you, Dodie.
Sorry, guys.
You're good. Dodie. Great questions, though, Dodie. I know you had said you had another sales call.
So for the rest of you who are in that scenario, what I would do is what I teach is how to capture leads. And I say, you need a landing page. Where can you build that? In my white label software called Progretta. Oh, you're going to need a text message opt-in. Where can you build that? In my white label software, Progretta. So that's the first step, capture. Number 2 is you got to nurture. Where can you build out this nurture campaign without doing it manually? In my white label software called Progretta. Okay, where do people book at to get on my calendar? In my white label software, Progretta. By the end of the 90-minute presentation, I'm like, who here will like my white label software, Progretta? And then there's a group of people like me, and I'm like, here's a link to go buy. And then my team is on the back end like, new SaaS customer, new SaaS customer, new SaaS customer, new SaaS customer, new SaaS customer. And they're like, and then the onboarding specialist is like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I'm sharing an end result by using my SaaS. So I hope that creates clarity.
Yep, absolutely. And you touched on a certain point that matters a lot with this approach, because you're educating the prospect in the early stages of the sales cycle, when they get to the onboarding is not high pressured onboarding. They already learned the platform quite a bit by the time they get to onboarding, versus the standard style of just getting them to the onboarding, and then you're hoping that you capture them and educate them and everything in the onboarding, which is quite difficult. The support gets out of control and things like that. But anyways, great questions, Dodie. I know she had a 1 o'clock sales call, and I know she's a part of our 5-day challenge. So she's been running through sales recently after the challenge. So Marcia, how's it going?
It's Marcia, and I'm great. Thank
Marcia,
you.
I'm sorry.
No worries. People do that all the time. Andy, thank you so much for this. I'm an experienced webinar presenter, and I'm learning all kinds of things. So I appreciate it a lot.
Appreciate you.
But new to SaaS. So my question is really fairly simple. Is this your only marketing method? Do you do anything else besides sending people to the webinars?
This is a majority for me.
Yeah.
This is a majority. At some point, someone has seen my presentation. A customer has seen my presentation. It's on the lower end where they haven't seen a presentation and they purchase still. So, but majority of people, they come in, they're like, I already know who Andy Audate is. I already know about the software, and my salespeople, all they got to do is just take a credit card.
Sure. And you've raised your price just incrementally over the years as you've sold more. Is that correct?
My SaaS right now is $749 per month. Someone asked that question in the chat box, and I think that's extremely low. And I'm going to be getting to the $2,000 a month for just the SaaS itself. Okay. So I started at $197 like everyone else does, or that I've seen, $197. But with doing group presentations, it makes it a lot easier to sell higher ticket.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, if any of you are brand new and you're like, you know what, I need more help, like jump into our SaaSpreneur course. We have a 5-day challenge where we teach you how to launch at $297, right? Maybe you're not advanced enough to be like Andy and go right into $750, or there are other people that do $2,000 SaaS now. But either way, just let us know if you need help. So great question, Marcia. Let me go ahead and add Emmanuel. Hey, Emmanuel, are you able to get on camera so we can have it for the recording? If not, no worries.
Hey, Paulson, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Paulson, Andy, you guys are officially amazing. I am loving every bit of the detailing, right? Andy said something a few minutes back that the SaaS can be, the features can be overwhelming. In fact, that's what happened to me initially. When I got to learn about Go High Live, the features. I'm actually a designer. I'm a brand strategist, and I also design websites. And a friend introduced me to Go High Level, and it was too good to be true. Having all of those. At some point, I was currently working in the marketing department I'm still working there for a company. So we do most of those automation. You have to go here to set up calendar, go there, different bunch of software. But then having one platform that could do the heavy was a game changer for me. So I was so happy and overwhelmed. So I felt like, okay, I'm going to resign next week to just face my marketing agency and all that. But my question is, Paulson and Andy, it's directed to you both. Could you maybe, I'm not just good with demo, to go to teach about the software. I do not know everything about the software, right? So is it possible that I can have Andy co-pilot, or maybe host a webinar with me, or maybe you, Paul? Is that something that is possible? Maybe I will you were saying something that one person can play the host while the other person can do something like that. So is it something that is possible, like having pros, man, having you guys, in my webinar, like, okay, you are teaching some stuff. Is that possible? So that is number one question. Then number two is, Andy, right? You said that Ah, Jesus. Andy, God, I wrote down that question, but I can't find it.
Let me answer your first one, if that's cool, okay?
Okay, cool.
So Emmanuel, tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing with you how to fill up your webinars and how to attract experts and co-pilots for your webinars. So I love the question. Wait till the end of the 3 days before, so that way you can implement what I'm going to teach, because you're getting ahead, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what sparking that conversation, but I'm going to answer that question tomorrow.
Okay, great. So my second question is, fine. So should we is it great, or can I narrow it down to a niche? Can I say, okay, I want to, because you said something, you teach 3 things in your webinars. You teach how to capture, nurture, and book, right? So can I say, okay, I want to teach real estate people how to capture, nurture, and close leads, or I can leave it open because I was feeling like, okay, you can just narrow it down to you have a niche, or what can you say about this?
I'll answer that, and then Paulson will share his experience. I have a different experience than Paulson, and Paulson has a different experience than me. So for you to answer your question is, if you wanted to choose real estate, 100%. You can market to real estate agents, you can market to real estate brokers, and how to teach them how to capture, nurture, and book utilizing advanced technology. So that could be your literally your whole presentation. So the answer is yes, you can niche. In my experience for Andy, I haven't niched down specifically to an industry or vertical. However, I've seen many other people in the community who've niched down to a specific industry, a specific vertical, be very successful. So there is not one route to go home. There's multiple routes to get there.
Yeah, and we talk about this in the 5-day challenge in the SaaSpreneur program as well. In the beginning of SaaS, you don't need to niche down. And what I would do, though, is focus in on a type of business. So like go all in on local and not big franchises and big brands and things like that. Just so get a category that you're focused on, but you don't need to niche down. If you do niche down, that's when you have an expansion offer and you have a bigger package. And for you to create a lot of noise around your expansion offers, you may have to focus on an industry, create case studies there. But those are great questions. We'll address some of this in detail tomorrow and day 3 as well. Let's go with Ryan. I think, Ryan, you might be the last one that we had said we'll do our 5th question on. And then after that, I want to share a little detail about the bonus that I have prepared for you all. Okay, Ryan? Hey, Ryan.
Yo, what is poppin', fellas? You guys crushed it, man. I really appreciate you all. I'll cut right to it. So just to kind of give you an idea. So for me, and I don't know if you guys, I just want to clarify that this works the same way. So our product is, actually it's a done for you. So we build this out. We target home service companies. So we're doing like $7,000 to $20,000 to build it, and then $497 a month. So does that, have you seen this method work with that, or are you doing that, or does that change things? Is this the wrong thing for me, or can you still do it this way?
So that way I can clarify to understand your question best. My interpretation of what you just shared is that, hey, I sell a higher ticket product than just SaaS. It's 7,000 plus. Should I still use webinars to sell my product?
Yes.
Is that right, Brian?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay, good.
The answer is yes. Now, the strategy may be a little bit different on your own. When you close the sale, you may have people put $1,000 deposit down. That's option 1, is that you have people put $1,000 down or $500 down to get the commitment for today. Because some people may be in a position where they got to transfer a little bit of money between accounts and so forth to pay your $7,000 or whatever the price point is. So, hey, if you want to get down and get the discount today or the offer today, go to this landing page and put down $500 down or $1,000 down to get your off to get started, and then you schedule a call with us, and then we'll get you the rest of the payment. So that's one example of a plethora of different processes that you can do on your webinar. But everyone, think about the webinar itself. It's the same process that you're going to do with one-on-one. Your people on a one-on-one call, they're going to have questions for you. What you're doing on the webinar is you're answering those questions ahead of time. Number 2 thing, they're going to have reasons why they don't want to buy. You're going to answer those objections ahead of time, to the point where the goal is at the end of your webinar, after the 90-minute or 2-hour mark is that when they think of a reason not to buy, you've already presented it and made it a point in your presentation such that it's like, okay, this is a no-brainer for me to go ahead and purchase, and then go ahead and purchase or take action towards the next step. So your webinar, by the way, may not all lead to a price point. Ryan, you may have everyone who's interested schedule a call. But what you did is you did the group presentation. So what I've seen is that there's 4 steps in the sales process. You want to greet the customer, you want to qualify them, and you want to present, and then you want to close. These 4 steps: greet, qualify, present, and close. Well, on a webinar, you've already greeted and built rapport by sharing who you are. If you do your presentation correctly, you would have already qualified and shared the qualifications to join your product or service, and then you would have already presented. So if your call to action on the webinar is not purchase today, but schedule a call, that means on that call, all you got to do is close. You don't have to do the first 3 steps of the sales process. All you're doing is, hey, so I saw that you came to my webinar. It's $7,000. Are you in? And then that's when they may ask one specific question about themselves. You answer that question, and then you take credit card.
Yeah, to add to this, Ryan, I just look at this whole webinar process as appointment setting on steroids when I put on my sales hat, right? Because I've built massive sales teams in the past before, and the biggest thing is like people jumping on a closer's calendar, and they don't know anything about the product, and then the closer is burdened with having to educate the offer. The closer shouldn't have to educate the offer. They should already know about the offer by the time they get there. So I think I look at this as like, hey, let me educate the prospects, and I filter them out so I don't waste time with no-shows. I don't waste time with folks that are not educated about the offer. They come in, I want to just close them. Like right out the gate, I want to close them, right? So my mentality is if I can do that at scale without having a huge line of like appointment setters, but I can do that as webinars, it's a big bonus. Another thing that we didn't really talk about yet is all the added content that you get for your company. Like you can chop up the webinars, a 90-minute webinar into 100 10-second reels with a decent, branding guy or video editor that's going to create now more buzz around your brand. Like you're doing a huge, a domino effect for your marketing in general, right? So then it'll create better appointments for your closers as well. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. Andy, what are you going to add to that? You got
no, this is 100% amazing. I've gotten, by doing the webinars and focusing on that, I dropped the amount of appointment setters that I've had in my agency because I've already done a lot of the legwork ahead of time. So now, and then on the 3rd day, I'm going to be sharing with you what we call a PWI, which is a post-webinar interview, and I'm going to be breaking down that process on how you increase sales. That's on day 3, on what that framework looks like after the webinar. So although you're going to work one day to present, the rest of the month is all follow-up and sales for your offer that you did at the webinar. So although you're not going to be doing the, hey, I did a webinar, I'm going to go on the beach and not have to work thing. You're still going to work. You're still going to be able to work. It's just going to be less frustrating and just more of closing business because everyone has already seen your sales presentation throughout, from your first webinar. Okay.
Great round of questions, Ryan. So appreciate it. So let's do this. I'm going to share my screen here for those of you that stayed through the end. Like I promised you, I do have a bonus. And forgive me if I don't do this right, but
be sure to grab a ticket. I'm one of the speakers there. I'll be talking about more on the webinars, but be sure to be at this event and go there with an intention to get something. I came there with an intention to multiply my business, and I left now with the process to build a $10 million SaaS. However much the tickets are, it ain't $10 million. It's worth it. So the opportunity is going to show up. The number 3 thing is just in the webinar snapshot alone that I'm going to be giving you. So tomorrow I'm excited because like some of the webinars that many of you have probably been on, believe it or not, we were the background of big celebrities who use our system. So when you get that snapshot, when you get the offer and you upgrade to the system, you'll have what some of the big names are already using as their infrastructure in the back end, right? And it was hard, but I did give it to you because I do believe in this community, and I can relate with many of you who are like, yeah, but I need to level up because I got my family and so on forth. So now today was an overview of the framework of what's going to happen, right? Once a month, You're going to have reoccurring events. You can put a group of people in front of you the whole night. So I gave you that as an overview. Tomorrow is all going to be about traffic, how to get people to come and see you speak at your event, how to get people to learn about your product and your services. And it's this one that I'm sharing with you, it doesn't include ads. So within the next 30 days, you can implement everything that I'm sharing with you without you having to do a bunch of ads and spend a bunch of money. So number one is how to fill up your webinar. Number two is how to get those registrants and how to get affiliates to promote your webinar. So that way, if you are taking, I know you're going to do the 5-day challenge, be sure to do that. Get in the community, get the knowledge from Paulson and the SaaSpreneur team. If you're taking on the challenge that was kind of just thrown in over the next 30 days of hosting your webinar and selling your SaaS, I invite you to do both. Don't choose, do both. If you're going to do the 30-day with me, not with me, but if you're going to do the 30 days of following everything that I share over the course of the next 2 days, then tomorrow is all about how to get those people to come in droves over time. So the thing I suggest that you do is write down whatever your big number is and just circle that. If it's 10 people, circle 10. If it's 100, circle 100. If it's 20, circle 20. If it's 15, circle 15. Get as many people, whatever, think huge. So that way you can create different results.
Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and stop the streaming so all the folks that are on replay can watch it without taking forever. So we appreciate you. Tomorrow is day 2, and it's really important that you come. And by the way, the bonus that we shared, the offer that we shared, it's only during this workshop session. I don't think I'm going to expand it or anything as far as like timeline is concerned. So you do have to take advantage of it while the workshop is happening. So please upgrade. And I know if you're on the fence of like upgrading anyway, this gives you a big bonus to just do that, incentivizes you. You have a system to just get started with organic webinars. So take advantage of it. It's not going to be available forever. But either way, we'll see you tomorrow for day 2. Thank you, Andy. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.